Hey everybody, how's it going? Um, there are a lot of questions that have been asked in the previous video that I'll be answering, but I thought I'll give you some feedback on the history and of the journey of helium. Because if we understand this, I think it will help us as a community and as hotspot owners, and will give us a clear idea where and where we're going. Before I do that, I just would like to say that I hold a bachelor degree in industrial engineering and a project management master's degree. So that's why I kind of know. I've been involved in production lines. I've been involved in logistics. So I kind of know the risks. I kind of know the how hard this journey will be and how it was way harder before for helium. So to begin with, see, we all understand that helium is a respond to the need to the market. So helium knows that IoTs needs to exist, and it was just about how to figure out the technology. So that's how they came up with the long phi, and from there it was built on the LoRaWAN, and they developed the technology. So that was the toughest thing to do. The second part was, how can we scale this? How can we get community to adopt this? And that's when they were introduced to the blockchain technology, and they kind of copied the same formula of the Bitcoin. The similarity is not the exact same thing; it's just the concept. So we understand they capped it, they did the halving, and all that stuff. Now, the adoption was not known. Will people jump on this if they do this formula? Yes or no? They did not know. Now, the first hotspot that was ever made was in house. So they were taking care of the logistics. And this is really important to understand because it will answer some of the questions and the inquiries that some of the members have. So, logistics is not easy, guys. It's a whole different thing. It's just even Amazon with the shipments, they kind of have a third party to handle that because logistics is just a pain. And with Amazon, they have a subcontract, and the subcontract have a subcontract because logistics is just a pain. And now with the scaling, Helium had to either decide if they're gonna handle all the logistics, and that will divert them from focusing on solving issues like security and all that stuff, or just subcontract it to someone else like SenseCaps, like Bobcat Miner, like Rack. Now, a lot of you will ask, well, they're not monitoring the vendors. Well, you have to understand that Helium in the beginning was not known if it's going to succeed or not because there were unknown risks, and that brings me to a really important concept, which is if you have a concept, you need to prove that it's going to work, and for you to prove it's going to work, you need somebody to will jump on that risk factor because there's a big unknown. Is it going to work or not? And that's why, for example, whoever bought the hotspots in end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020, they got the most rewards because they were jumping on that risk. No one knew if it's going to work. No one knew if it's going to succeed. It was just unknown risk. And that brings me to the project management point right here. See, in project management, in every project, there is a section called lessons learned. And these lessons learned will help you adapt, change, do whatever, make concerns, draw your next project based on these lessons learned. You can base on the risks that were mentioned in that project. So you have something to relate to, so you can build upon or on top of it. While helium, there is no project like helium. Therefore, they are the first ones to start this project. So there's no project to look at and kind of, okay, let's do the reassessment of what happened to a previous project. There's no project to look at. So everything is starting from scratch. So therefore, there were unknowns, there were risks. And therefore, I think what Helium did was quite smart. Like, let me handle the security, let me handle the other stuff, and let me subcontract. Now, whoever they're going to subcontract, they're jumping on that risk. So they have to build a manufacturing line. They have to build all these IoTs. They have to manufacture them, hoping that people will buy it. So there is unknown risk. And like what they did with Nebra, I think, was it Nebra or Rack? I think Nebra. Nebra had to take that risk. Rack in the beginning had to take that risk. Now, other companies that later on start joining, they joined because it became successful. Now, the failure throughout the vendors was what's going on. It's kind of expected because there are unknown risks. Now, the logistics been handled, and we're still gonna face some issues. We're gonna face some serious problems because there are still unknown risks, especially when it comes to scalability. So if we understand how this works, we cannot blame. I see a lot of people in the previous question. They're asking, "Oh well, why is Helium not handling the logistics?" We now have the vendors, and they are on their own, and they're having problems with selling. Like we've seen with Long AP, they did not know how to figure out. It crashed twice. So there are so many, and this is vendor. All he's doing is just handling sales. Imagine if that was on Helium's side. They're gonna have to create a whole new department just for that, and that's why they decided to go for subcontracting. Brandon, so Brandon, I did a video yesterday about that. And I think I made it very clear. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna clear this one more time. There's something called the Helium or HEP 20. HEP 20. What they're saying is, okay. Let me before I talk about the HEP 20. If we have, uh, okay, if we have Sinet, we know Sinet now is partnering up with Helium. So partnering up with Helium, they're saying they're gonna have billions of IoT devices being deployed on the Helium network. So let's assume 1 billion, not billions, just 1 billion IoT devices. Something that a lot of people don't know. For the IoT devices to work on Helium, they need something called data credits. And these data credits, the only way to purchase them is you buy HNT and convert it to data credits. So what's going to happen to HNT when you do that? They get burned, and that's what we call the PME, which is burnt mint equilibrium. So for you to get these data credits, you have to burn HNT, and it will be out of the circulation. The supply circulation, there will be less HNTs, and this is a problem. And the way they solved it is by HEP 20. The HEP 20 is simply saying we can have something like what do you call it? I would call it a gauge or um, anything that you can control from 1 to 100, just like your volume, just like anything else. You have the control of controlling it. And what that means? That means they're saying if helium will be out of circulation, the HNT price will be billions of X's because there will be no more helium. So in this example, Senate, if they're going to have 1 billion IoTs, and we're expecting by 2025 to have 75 billion in IoTs built on different networks. So Helium probably will get the biggest share because it's the most advanced and has the biggest network right now. So to have the 1 billion working on the Helium network or activated on the Helium network, each one of them needs at least $0.50 per month to be active on the Helium network. So $6 per year. So 6 by 1 billion, that means we're going to need to buy 6 billion worth of HNT. If we divide that by $20, like the price of HNT, that means we're going to need to burn 300 uh, million tokens, which is more than what we have or what we can mine. Therefore, the price will be just crazy from one project, just having 1 billion, and we're aiming at 75 billion by 2025. So, realistically, I'm going to give you numbers that make sense. The biggest thing that you need to think about, which is actually mentioned in the HIP 20 as well, which is we have to scale the network. Of course, we want IoTs to be part of this, but there's no way we can scale this network if we cannot reward enough money for the people that owns these hotspots. Are we clear on this? So, which means, if how can I scale if they're assuming to have 1 million hotspots extra, million hotspots in 2022? If you're not going to earn enough money in 2022 for your hotspot, are you going to buy hotspots? Of course not. Are you going to deploy more hotspot if you already own some? No. If you're not going to break even in 3 to 6 months, of course you're not going to be interested. Nobody else will be interested. So there will be no scaling. And that's what makes the HIP and Helium healthy, is we own this network. And if we all not going to make any money, we're going to go to HIP and introduce new formulas to to increase the price. And that's when the HIP 20 comes in handy, because the HIP 20 is saying, hey, for every HNT that gets burned and turned into data credits, I can mint new HNTs. And this way, I can keep on supplying HNT to the consensus groups and to the hotspot owners. However, I can control how many HNTs I can mint. I can mint 1% of whatever was burnt, or I can mint 100%. And the way to decide on this is among the community. We decide. And this decision will be upon the numbers. That means if I'm going to burn 1 million HNT, that, let's say, Senate, they want to buy 10 million HNT to turn them into data credits. So they will burn it, and we have, through the HIP 20, the opportunity to either do 1%, 10%, 100%. Well, this number will be determined upon how much each hotspot owner is making. So if we are not making much, we're going to burn only 1%, because we want to have the deflationary system built, right? So we need to have, sorry, we need to have a deflationary in a way that a formula that makes hotspot owners make anywhere from 50 to 70 to 80 per month. Otherwise, it's not the amount of HNT, it's what you're supposed to get in the end. You need to break even in 3 to 6 months. Otherwise, you will not scale Helium, if that makes any sense. Yes, and the decoupling, I can tell you for sure that it's going to happen this year. Um, because I don't know if you watched my last video, but I can repeat it here as well. Ecosystems that proven to be working, just like Axie Infinity, just like Solana. So, for example, Axie Infinity, I showed this chart yesterday. While we had the biggest dip in mid of May and June, Axie Infinity did around 800x or 700x. Why? Because people were jumping on the game. People were buying the SLP and selling the SLP. So it's healthy on its own. So it doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the crypto world, because I'm doing fine. And therefore, Helium, first of all, it does not have any problems with regulations. It doesn't have DeFi, which is the biggest issue now with governments. So it doesn't have DeFi. It's actually needed by governments, private sector, public sector, humans. It's going to just facilitate and make life easier. Therefore, there will be regulations regarding of radio frequencies. There will be regulations coming um, to internet consumption, uh, freedom fi, but this is internal. So we're going to see maybe dips inside the ecosystem of Helium. Therefore, once Sinet starts purchasing those data credits and we see numbers are increasing, numbers of helium hotspots increasing, the data credits are increasing, that's when it becomes healthy. And therefore, whatever happens in crypto space, it will not impact. Obviously, it will take time, but the more time, the less impact of the crypto or Bitcoin will be on the Helium network. And if you guys don't believe me, look at Solana, look at Axie Infinity. Now, they have their own structure because Axie Infinity is built on the Ethereum blockchain, and therefore that Ethereum blockchain, if the biggest impact will be the gas fees on the Axie Infinity, if that makes any sense. As we will see a supply squeeze from the halving and 400k hotspots trying to compete for 1.5 HNT a month, and then prediction. Um, there are so many variables that can impact the price of HNT. Realistically, um, first of all, investors coming in. So we have Alameda and others, those international investors. We have Mark Cuban been tracking the performance of Helium Network. So these are investors. If people invest and they keep HNT out of circulation, and those exchanges don't have enough. So we have around 100 plus million HNTs have been mined. So we have around 25 to 27% been staked. So we cannot touch those. So there are people that are holding, there are people that are doing staking in other platforms like what is it, Celsius, Binance, and therefore these exchanges, when they drop in the number of tokens they have in their exchange, the price will increase. Now, with the HEP 20, which we have control of, we can say, hey, we can burn 1%, we can mint 1% in exchange of what, 100%, or we can mint 10%, 100%. And this is important because we want to make it a healthy. So now, with no regard to whatever is happening to the crypto market, so this is on its own, and it's going to take time to determine if $100 is doable this year. I believe so. 100, maybe 150. But I can tell you for sure that 2022, which I did a video on that, it will not be less than 200. That's I'm almost confident, because like you said, if we have how many hotspots today and how much the earnings, we still need. Remember, the point is we need to scale Helium. The only way to scale it, if people still get enough rewards. If they're not going to get enough rewards, this is going nowhere. And therefore, yes, you're absolutely right. But in 2022, it makes more sense because we're going to have around 1.5 million, just like you broke it, Brandon. We have 1.5 million hotspots because we're expecting 1 million by the end of 22, extra 1 million 2022, and we're going to have around 400 this year. So 1.4, and we're all competing or trying to mine 1.5 HNT tokens, which means close to 1 HNT per month. So again, if we go to the same formula that we need to reward everyone to keep this network live and healthy, we need to give them rewards. Now, if they're going to make anywhere from $20 to $30 a month, that means if they're going to cost them $600 to buy one, it's going to take them 20 months. I don't think people will be interested. Therefore, we're going to go back to HIP 20, and we're going to we're going to mint less. So there will be less tokens in the exchanges, and therefore that will increase the price. Is it an idea? Is it an idea to start an exchange to sell data credits? Cody Files, is it an idea to start exchange to sell data credits? Data credits is pegged to US dollar. So 100,000 data credits is equal to $1, if that's what you're asking. Yes, I totally forgot about the Freedom Fi. I did not give it enough value. Definitely, I agree with you, Brandon. Freedom Fi, I think it's so big and huge because um, we're talking about the biggest industry in the world, telecommunications, and telecommunications have problems with deploying more 5Gs because it's so expensive and it's just a running cost. And so, if Freedom Fi uh, is going to achieve this, which they have been deployed on the network, therefore we're going to see a huge impact. That's for sure. So far, to my understanding, Cody, it's the only way you can convert Helium to data credits is through your Helium app. So that's so far the only way I know. And I've read in the HEP 20 that each Helium app is dedicated to their data credits in that app. If that makes any sense. And I, as an exchange, give them data credits. No, what how it works? Like if you open your Helium app, if you want to update your antenna, if you want to change your location, whatever, they're gonna update your antenna. It'll cost you 55,000 data credits. So you're gonna say yes, and it will take some of your HNT, which is I think nothing, and convert it to data credits. And that's the same thing with the IoTs. They're gonna have their own application where they buy HNT from the market and convert it to data credits. I'm gonna look at the some of the questions from yesterday's video. They were actually very good. Um, Let me just look at them. Yeah, the only way you can convert, the only way to purchase data credits is by burning helium forever. And that's what will drive the price of helium. It's because you're taking helium or HNT token out of the circulating supply. But we have the control, we have like a gauge. Okay, let's mint 1%, 10%, 50%, depending on the market. Because if we burn all HNT, HNT will be like 10 billion X, right? So let me just look at these questions because they are really good questions. Oh, so Kevin here asks Eddie, the next issue is DC pricing, which is data credit. How will they deal with data credit pricing for 5G? A current rate, by my calculation, 1 gigabyte of data on Helium network is $416, whereas I can get Comcast data. So they're saying that the price of the 5G is going to be doesn't make any sense. So my answer to you, Kevin, we still in the unknown stage. We're just testing. So the price is not fixed yet. Everything can change. So if it doesn't make sense, and for you, according to your calculation, it does not make sense. Do you think we're going to just sit and watch? Of course not. We're going to change this because if it's too pricey, nobody is going to be purchasing this. So therefore, do not worry about the pricing now. we have two worries: is to scale this to be the number one network in the world, and the second part is to attract investors and others like investors, hotspot owners, um, governments. So, but the scaling is what we care about, because at 200,000, we're still not the biggest network. We need to be the well-known, stable, secured, decentralized network. Once we achieve this trilemma, which is the biggest problem in the blockchain, once we achieve this, things will work out. We can change the formula for anything. And that's why we have HIPs, which, if you guys don't know what HIPs are, stands for Helium Improvement Processes. Like, I see serious issues starting to roll in now, and even more so. So, Kevin, again, we are we are part of this network. So I know you're going to see security issues. I know you're going to see government regulations. We're going to see internal issues. That's normal. But the quality of the community, if you guys go to the Discord here, if you go to the Discord, you can go down here and you can see Helium improvement processes adjustments. You can see here, and you can see people, the quality of the community, the people that are involved. I mean, we're talking about geniuses. We have Jason, we have BG, BFG Neil. I mean, they are creating their own website to help the Helium network. They paid for this. Nobody paid them. So it's incredible how they are contributing, like spending their own money and time to help out this network. So it is very healthy. Let me switch this so this makes more sense. Crusade Electronics. There is something called the POC 11. They're supposed to change things up, and the POC version 11, which is proof of coverage. The good thing about it, they're saying we're trying to shake things around, and to shake things around, we need to change some of the formulas, and this is the POC 11, and therefore you might be seeing um, more income or more rewards with this, if it doesn't have any impact on the majority of the people. We might either downgrade to POC 10 or come up with a new POC 12. Now, with the saturation, uh, if you're in the US, you should be, if you're in a saturated area like Manhattan, you'll be now earning a second income, which is called data credits, because IoTs will be deployed in the US with a company called Senate. So therefore, they're going to pay for the service. And this service, which is data credits, if they use your network, you're going to get a share of that network. All right. Gabriel, uh, like all these YouTubers and fellow members, they're all good. I'm not going to talk anything bad, but they forget one important thing, which is huge. The word huge. Anyways, it is huge though. We own this network, and we want to scale this network because it's ours, and we want to build the biggest network ever. And we own the formula. We have the control to increase the number of rewards. We have that, but we want it to be in a healthy manner. So what does that mean? If you and I own a shop, and we're like, okay, hey, let's hit the target of making $100 a day, and we hit that target, and we decide, okay, we hit the target by 2 p.m. Let's go home. We decide, okay, let's make 200 and stay up till 8 p.m. because we own this shop. We can do whatever the hell we want. So in regard of the 5G and how much it's going to make and all of that, This is still test and trial and error. We control this. So if it doesn't make sense for us to invest $1,000 or $5,000 on a 5G hotspot, who's going to buy it if it's not going to be rewarding to you? And who's going to use it if it's too expensive? So it's too early to judge now, because we're going to find that formula where it suits to be used by others and it's rewarding for you enough to buy it. And who controls all of this? We control it. And that's why when people break things down, do not break it down right now, because when it comes to it, it needs to make sense for it to scale. And the only way, just like think about the hotspot is can be applied on the 5G. It's the same concept. If the Helium HNT is around $15, and if it's gonna cost, and all you're gonna mine today is, let's say, have HNT a month, which what you're gonna make $8. Do you think people will buy Helium hotspot in the next few months? And everybody's complaining, I'm making $8, so it's gonna take me what, $8 multiplied by 50, what, 50 months to get my money back. That will stop scaling. And if you read HIP 20, they mentioned that. Let me just open it for you guys, because I don't want you to think that I'm making this up. um HIP 20. Cody flies for the, let me just see here. Reduced HNT issuance might reduce further network growth if the HNT price does not increase by a commensurate amount to incentivize new miners. They mentioned this in the HEP. This is official HEP 20. And what does that mean? There's no way I will jump on Helium if I'm going to make $8 or $10 a month. I need to reward. Otherwise, I'm going to unplug my Helium, right? And therefore, yes, there will be an increase in HNT to actually get people to stay on this network and to attract more people to, invest in this network. So regarding the light hotspots, you can see it here. Is it here? This is quite old, but I think there was another document. But basically, I think I think 4, 5 years, 10 years. See, in 20 years, the pure income will be coming from data credits. So there will be no proof of coverage. You will not be paid after 20 years for proof of coverage. So it breaks here. In 20 years, this is the percentage of proof of coverage. So it gets less. Now, this is old. They have increased it to 32, I think, or 32 and a half. But regardless if it's old or not, it's the same idea, the same concept. It gets lower and lower, because once now you're gonna get less HNT for the proof of coverage, but you're gonna get a new stream of income from data credits, and the data credits will increase because there will be more IoTs deployed on the Helium network. So the light spots, I think I forgot, I covered it in one of my previous videos, but I think it's up to 4 to 5 years that they will become um, very useful. And I think by 2025, all the research are assuming that there will be around 75 billion IoTs on the network. So let me just have. So let me just go some of the questions from Kevin. Thank you, Eddie, for research reporting. I'm doing well with my hotspot. Zach, bravo, bravo, another highly depth. Thank you, Zach. These are scammers. Scammers, great in results. If Helium wants it, Why aren't they addressing the minor manufacturing and distribution model? It could be a lot faster. It could be a lot if people who bought miners 10 months ago go actually receive them. And yes, I believe it is Helium's fault. They give contracts or approved companies who have zero background in manufacturing. These companies then outsource the build to shine to build the products. See, I don't know if I finished it in the beginning, but I'll the backing brothers. Well, see, Helium when it started to outsource, nobody knew Helium. Nobody knew is like I need to invest half a million or $1 million for a production line and manufacturing facility, hoping that this will work. So the big companies that like Bobcat Miner, like Seed Studios, they're not gonna waste. They have already working manufacturing lines and they're happy with what I have. For them to jump on this, hoping that it will succeed or not, it's a risking factor. So they had to find and search for companies that were willing to take that risk, like Nebra, like Rack, like who else was there? Syncrobit. I don't know who started the first, but I would assume Rack and Nebra. And we know Nebra was a Drac. One of them was not doing very well because they took the money first from people, then they took that money and they invested in the manufacturing facility. So I don't blame them. Like if somebody talked to you about Helium 2 years ago, would you like actually build a manufacturing line? People are doubting whether to buy Helium network, hotspot 2 years ago, and now I don't see it's Helium's fault because they were desperate. They wanted to get off the logistic problems because they were handling shipments, they were handling deliveries, they were handling wrong deliveries, there were transactions. Logistics is not an easy job, and that's why they're like, let's find whoever is willing to take the risk and jump on board to start manufacturing this. So I don't blame Helium because they were desperate, but I understand your point that they should have had some screening or a methodology, more strict methodology of how companies can proceed. And I agree with you on the concept. I think in, I'm sure there was a mechanism that can be done to ensure better performance. But like I said, the, see when because I'm a project manager myself, and I've been dealing with different projects, different people. When you have a team that are just pure scientists or pure uh, kind of what pure like dedicated in that field, like electrical engineer, blockchain productions, whatever, and you talk to them about marketing or sales, they will not understand that language because they're in that space, right? So I have to, you know, kind of justify that they're not in that space of I've been in marketing, I've been in sales, I know how to handle this, I've been in logistics. So yes and no. Yes, it's kind of their fault that they did not address it, but you cannot blame them because, well, I don't know. I think I'm stuck in between. I think they also changed the maximum HNT to 200. I think that chart is a little older. Yeah, Brandon, it is older. It's yeah, there was a slowdown in the blockchain, so it was used to be 240, so it was reduced to 223 million HNT. It is a bit old, but like I said, it was the concept of how the breakdown, right? So but thanks for mentioning that. um some of the questions, Gravy, and this, I'm currently staking my HNT and huddling. Yeah, Brandon, I'm actually buying more HNTs, to be honest. um the reason why, this is not a financial advice. The reason is crypto most likely will be hammered. Now, how bad it is, it will be, we don't know. That's absolutely nuts. I cannot tell you. But because of the regulations, we know governments will need to tax this. They will need to control crypto, especially projects with DeFi. And this is, I'm 99% sure that they will they will squeeze their balls. They have to. It's just that's how governments are. Now, there's another problem, which is printing money. So hyperinflation is killing a lot of countries, their financial system. So how desperate governments will be, that's something I don't know, and that will kind of determines how bad the hammer will be. But that's why I like Helium the most, because it is not in that space. It doesn't have DeFi, and it is needed by governments. It's needed by private sector. It will be the future. Not only private and public sector, the big companies that lobby, Google, Amazon, Samsung, HP, Dell, all of these, they have their own IoTs ready. So all they need is a network. And if these big companies use Helium, they will defend them. They will do whatever. And we've seen Alameda investing. We've seen Mark Cuban. So it will be like the internet back in the day when internet started. Now it started, but then government came in and tried to regulate it, how much you're paying tax and all that stuff. That will happen. But the decoupling will come once the IoTs, because now it's utilized. See, any network that gets utilized, that's it. It it, it will have less and less impact by Bitcoin. That's what how it is with Axie Infinity. That's how it is with Solana, and I've been addressing Solana, I think 2 months ago, when I said, with the gas fees of Ethereum, people will run away from Ethereum and look for something that does the same. NFTs. What drove the whole market was NFTs, and that's what happened. People jumped into Solana because of NFTs and the fees. They have NFTs, so and it'll cost me like half a penny to do the NFT. Why I'm paying $200 in Ethereum gas? Um, I am 21 and in college. I have 1,800 HNT staked on Helium Rising. I'm trying to be a millionaire by 2025. Oh, Brandon, there you go. Uh, you'll be probably a millionaire by 2022. Cody Fly's Helium could also have worked through telecom companies but opted for private individuals. Um, well, let me, Cody Fly's, look, Alameda Research, this is one of the companies that invested 2 months ago. I know Alameda very well because I know they are one of the biggest lobbies, and they have huge network. So they invested with other companies $111 million in Helium. But these guys, it's not a joke. Alameda Research was founded in 2000, October 2017. We manage over 1 billion in digital assets and trade 1 to 10 billion per day. These guys know, and they invested in the 5G. So the same problem um, with what do you call it? The same problem that happened with hotspot, helium hotspots. People did not believe it back in 2019. They did not know it will work, and therefore people were speculative. They said okay. They were not interested, and didn't get attraction. Now there's a huge difference between you proving the concept and you going and saying, "Hey, I have a concept for the 5G." It's like going to the Shark Tank. If you go to Shark Tank with a concept and offering them, "Hey, and this concept is great," the sharks will not invest in your project. Why? Because there are so many risks. Are you gonna? Is it gonna work? It's not. They don't know. So why would they invest? If you prove it to them, if you come to the Shark Tank and you have a prototype and it's been used and it's been solving these issues, guess what? They will be interested. If you have sales, they will be more interested, and you can increase your price. And therefore, Freedom Fight, for them to go to to mobile companies or GSM companies and tell them I have this device. They're like, does it work? We don't know. Does the Helium network, is it working? We don't know yet. Now the IoTs, when they come and get deployed under the Helium network, and can they handle so many hot IoTs? Those are risks that we should anticipate. Therefore, Freedom Fi, it's been deployed I think a few days ago, and we just need to see if it's working. Now we have geospoofing. We have some issues in Helium. We cannot deny that we have problems and risks and unknown risks. So until we overcome those issues and prove that the utilization is getting optimized day by day, then these GSM companies will invest. So, and just think about it. If somebody told you about Helium 2 years ago, would you, if you did not see all the scalability and everybody's talking about it, and you're the first one or 100, probably you've not have not invested on in one back in 2019. It's just because I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if I'm going to get my money back. And to prove my point, I forgot who it was, but there was someone that jumped on, I think it was the first 200 hotspots. He was selling every HNT. He used to make over 10,000 HNT a month, and he used to sell them all for 20 cents because he just wanted to grab the money as fast as he can. And now he's regretting it because he did not believe in it. And why he did not believe in it? Because he did not see the longer picture. So Helium would rather build their own ecosystem and network and be competitive instead of falling to work under telecom companies. Well, if you guys want to believe in your network, you have to be part of the Discord. If you go to discord.com and go to Helium, there's so many issues that are being discussed. There's so many good stuff that being introduced, ideas, projects. I mean, Helium, I believe Helium is on the right track because of the trilemma of the blockchain. The trilemma is really sensitive because if you want to have these extremely decentralized, that impacts your scalability. And if you want to have huge scalability, you're going to have problems with security. And that's what is going on. We're kind of extremely decentralized, and we're scaling in huge numbers. I mean, beginning of this year, we had I think 10,000 hotspots, and we're hitting 200,000 and 400,000 by the end of this year. That's 40x. And security so far, everything's been handled well, and the network is stable. We haven't seen any crackdowns. We haven't seen any real issues with the network. We know there is issues with hacking and stuff, but in terms of how stable the network is it handling all these new deployments? Over 50,000 or 60,000 in the past 30 days. So that's pretty amazing. So let me see if, and there was, I think there was some good questions on the YouTube here. Do you think companies will stop to produce helium miners when they become 1 million? Well, Hake, Lolo player, we're gonna have less by 2022. Hotspots will be cheaper. There's, I think they're anticipating 50% decrease in price of hotspot. That means it will be more feasible for people to buy it, especially in third world countries. And then the light spots will be available next year. So light spots, the only difference, you do not get um, rewarded for proof of coverage. You will be getting rewarded for data credits. So if IoTs are quite enormous in your city, then you will get a lot of money just from the transactions from the IoTs. So yeah, there is a curve. Light spots, I think they will be more feasible in. They will be cheaper for sure. I think they're selling now for 180 bucks, if I'm not mistaken. 180, 110, 120, in the 100 to 200 range. Could you see mining helium right now and investing being similar to those who invested in Bitcoin or Ethereum? Could you see mining helium right now? Um, well, Brandon, I'm very careful when it comes to investing my money, right? And I think you are too. Now, I'd rather make less money if I'm gonna have less risk. So if I'm more protected, I'm gonna make a little bit less. I think I'm better off. And I think people I love to take risk, by the way. But with cryptos, I would I'm waiting for that point where the regulations come and the market kind of take the biggest dip it will ever see. I'm gonna wait for that moment. But it doesn't mean that I don't own. I do own, but I'm just keeping my money. The ones that I need to invest now, I'm keeping them for future because regulations is it's coming. There's no way to look around that. But when it comes to helium, I see it uh, very clear. I see why the regulations will not impact it. I see why it's going to decouple. I see why the market needs this. It's not I'm introducing a new thing that I'm trying to attract. No, markets need IoTs, and IoTs need a network. And Helium has so far the most scaled network. So, and not to mention the investors, not to mention um, the freedom fi all of these just all good indicators that will impact the price. And I think um, helium can hit the 200 300 by 2022, and that's 20x from now. And in 30 years or 40 years will be all the in 40 years, I think, or 50, was it 40 years, there will be one HNT to mine a month, one HNT for all of us. So there will be less coming into the circulating supply, and therefore, and we control the HIP 20. The HIP 20 is really magical. If you think about it, it is magical. And guys, participate in Discord. Go and vote. There's so much stuff to help with the Discord. Hi, Alexander. So yes, to answer your question, you know, I believe that helium is gonna be one of the best investments I ever have because not only because of its structure, but because the market needs it, and that's what makes it special. And we have a strong team. We have very strong community. Guys, if you talk to anybody in the community, I've seen Jason. I had a question about Relayed, and he showed me the workflow, and I was like, I cannot show this to my people, like in my channel. Like, I'd love to show it, but I'd love to give a quick solution that makes sense with no technical backgrounds. And I was like, it's impossible for them. Like a regular person that wants to fix a relay, why does he have to go through? But because they're extremely technical and they're extremely smart, and I'm gapping the curse of knowledge and trying to translate this to a simple language that everybody can get. So just have a sip of coffee. Let me just open this. So this is Sinet. It's they're promising over billions of IoTs to be deployed. I think they will be starting in the US to begin with, but not this is not the only one. This is one out of many. I think there's over 100 projects that will be using Helium. And if you guys never heard of them, you can check them out here. This is the Helium ecosystem. And you can see it here by integrations, hotspots, users. So hotspots are the vendors, community tools. These are tools that are created by the community for free, most of them for free, integrations and users. So we can see this is for agricultural, this is IoT toolkit, this is asset tracking. Early, this is the big thing. Erica, air monitoring. Argon, this is staking. This is asset tracking. This is air monitoring. So all of these projects, not only Sinet, not only FreedomFi, all of these projects will add value to the network. And these guys will be using Helium. So we have environmental solutions, we have agriculture, we have health monitoring, we have project support, we have cold chain monitoring, asset monitoring, cloud solutions. These all are projects that give value and it utilizes. And once it gets utilized, that's when decoupling happens. And that's when you'll be just making profits, I guess. You'll be hoping that, listen guys, I don't like to be very optimistic when it comes to being optimistic and being realistic. Helium will have its own dumps, it will have its own challenges, it will have its own risk. It's a project, so all projects have risks. All projects, especially if you're going to scale globally, especially that there has been never project like this done before that you can relate to and build on top of it. Therefore, yes, it's going to work. It's going to decouple. It's going to be the future. But the future also, we have to understand there are risks because we don't know what we're going to face. We don't know what kind of regulations we're going to face. So, yes, there are risks, but it is healthy. All of these companies are not building on Helium or trying to use Helium unless they know it is something worth while taking the risk. Network Toolkit, Helium Rising. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I just wanted to answer some of the questions that were put in front in the previous video. I think that Helium is in good track. And if you guys want to know the breakdown, you can watch my previous video. But basically, what I'm saying is if Helium is going to be, if we have 1.5 million or 1.4 million hotspots by 2022, then the price of Helium, because we control it through the HIP 20, and we need to make that equilibrium, we need to make it to a number that it gives enough rewards for us and others to jump on this network. So Helium should be around 200 to the 300 range dollars. That's that's probably the fair call. It could be a little bit more. It depends on what we're going to face. Are we going to have more deployed? But the main thing Helium wants to do, and I showed this in the HIP 20, we need to incentivize people to buy more hotspots and scale this network. And the only way to do that is to reward them enough to break even or get their investment back anywhere from 3 to 6 months. If they're not going to do, if it's a very simple math, if I'm not going to get rewarded enough to keep me incentivized, then I'm not going to jump on this network. And that's what we need to ensure and guarantee that they get enough rewards. So that's my intake about this whole thing. So yes, $200 to $300 is very feasible for Helium, and I just explained the simple math. Now, can it get more? Of course, it can get more because Um, all these projects are, if they're going to use the network and they're going to burn more HNTs, then yes, there will be an increase. Maybe it goes to 500. It is a possibility. It's just these are unknowns. We don't know how fast this work, how fast they will utilize this network. But I'm saying, and this is not a financial advice, I'm quite confident that the price of HNT will not be less than 200 by 2022. Will not be less than 200. There's no way it can be less than 200, because the whole mechanism is we increase this network. This is what is all about. I know we care about IoTs, but we need more IoTs. And the only thing to win this whole space of IoTs is to be scalable and to be have a complete network. And to have this complete network, we need people to purchase hotspots. And for people to purchase these hotspots, they need to be incentivized. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So to make them incentivized, we need to ensure that they make anywhere from $50 to $80 a month. Otherwise, they're not going to invest. And to get this $50 to $80, while we are planning to have 1.5 hotspots by 2022, sharing all of us sharing 1.5 million HNTs, which basically probably the average will be half HNT, which is half HNT as today's price is $8. So it doesn't make sense. While if it's $200 per HNT, that means I can make $100. It's still feasible and it incentivizes me to jump on this network. Now, why I'm saying 200 plus? Because, like I said, Freedom Fi can have impact. Investors can have an impact. Uh, More utilization of these companies like Helium Rising, Helium Staking, and all that stuff is going to help out, because staking, that means there's no circulation, supply circulation in the exchanges, and if these exchanges run out of HNT, they will increase the price because there's more demand than the supply, and therefore, yes, those are all added values to the network. So I think I've covered probably everything that I wanted to talk. If you guys don't have any questions, I don't know. Yeah, I guess there are no questions here. So, do you want me to cover anything? Do all types of IoT sensors work on the Helium network? Uh, of course, uh, IoT sensors, they should if they're using the LoRaWAN. So if they are using the LoRaWAN technology, then yes, I don't see why not, because that's how they need to add something to it, because that's how they talk to the LongFi. They I think it would be like small programming or something. I'm not technical on that side, but there's no way they can talk to HNT Helium hotspots unless that there is a common language, because what it does, it sends like a signal. Think about it like your automation, your home automation. Hey Alexa, turn off the lights. So you need in that light, you need to have Wi-Fi and whatever. So that's the language they have now. With Helium Hotspot, they have the LongFi, which is a patented technology for Helium Hotspot, and they're using the LoRaWAN. So most IoTs will use the LoRaWAN, but they need to adapt it to send that signal that LongFi can capture and send back. So that's for Cody Flies. I apologize for the background. There's some construction next house. So, guys, if you have more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. If not, I'm gonna just let you guys go. Again, guys, thank you for the 1,000 subscribers. Uh, it's funny how I look at this. When I started, I just started. I wouldn't say like a joke, but I would say like, um, I mean, the first purpose was to try to protect people from getting scammed. Okay, Cody Flies, Cody Files. Okay, sorry for the mistake. So you're a Binance guy, hey? Sorry, I just I'm not wearing my glasses, so. All right, I'll let you go, guys. And if you have any questions, you can always come to my Telegram group or ask them here, whatever you feel like. All right. All righty then. Take care, everyone.